Okay, we've got a couple of minutes until we start the webinar. Just want to make sure that everyone can hear me okay. I've started the chat box also. So I see that Martin is joining us from Malakoff. Not sure who all else is here. You can either unmute your microphone and talk to us, or you can enter into the chat box. If you have other people on your campus that you feel like may want to view this after it's all said and done, I am recording this webinar, and so I will have a link that I'll send out to not only just the participants today, but also to all the members of our CTE co-op, and then you'll be able to view it at a later date. Also, we're going to be working off of the s'more that you see in front of you. And my clock has just rolled over to 9 o'clock, so we will go ahead and officially start. Good morning. Thanks for joining me today. As you all know, I'm Adrian Knight, CTE coordinator here at Region 7. And I'm going to spend a few minutes with you giving you a CTE update. It looks like we have Jerry Stewart from Kilgore with us also. Glad to have you along with us, Jerry, and Martin also. The s'more we're going to be working off of, you can see right up here at the top, s'more.com/2KDFM. Almost sounds like the call letters for a radio station. So if you want to pull that up, and then you'll see, you'll have everything there on your computer, and you can save that. That s'more will be available. It will stay up for as long as s'more will let us have it there. So if you need to come back to that and refer back to it, you'll have that resource to you, available to you. You'll see the first thing there on the s'more is a list of upcoming sessions. Some of those are already up and open on our website. And let's see here. Looks like PT Walters has joined us down in Hudson. Glad to have him here. And PT, we do have a chat box open up. If you can get to that through the Zoom, and you can access that if you have any questions or want to type in your name. And that way we have record of who all is here today. But you see the list of upcoming sessions. Some of those are not hyperlinked. We don't have them open just yet. Those were kind of, we've created those in the last couple of weeks and are finalizing the details on those. You'll see June 14th and 15th, that NCCER instructor certification course in Gladewater. It is a 2-day training. If you want to offer some NCCER certifications, your teachers do have to go through that instructor training and be a certified NCCER instructor. So we have that one in Gladewater on June 14th and 15th. Then we'll just go right down the list. June 20th, the non-traditional CTE. If that was an area on your PBMAS report that caused some concern, we do have a half-day session on it. Well, we will look at strategies and possible ways that you may be able to remove some barriers or to address some of those deficiencies in that non-traditional area. June 21st and 22nd for your anatomy and physiology teachers is the A&P Success Cadre. That's actually through our curriculum and instruction department. James Slaughter, who is the high school science specialist, he is working on that 2-day training for our A&P teachers. We'll have another NCCER instructor certification course down in Elkhart. So we have one kind of on the other, on the southern end of the region on the 25th and 26th. July 17th through 20th, that's our science teacher and industry workshop. This is the 4th year, and we've got a flyer. There is a a one-page flyer down here at the bottom, and I'll go ahead and open that up. It is a 4-day workshop. It's, as the name implies, it is geared towards your science teachers, but it's open to counselors, CTE instructors, CTE administrators. It's being held at LeTourneau University. We have several industry partners working with this. Eastman, Texas Eastman in Longview is a big sponsor of this, and they are providing breakfast and lunch every day for all of the participants. There is no charge to the workshop for the participants. It is it becomes a very long and tough workshop. By the time you get to that 4th day, some of the participants are kind of tired, but there is a stipend. In the past, Eastman has given each teacher who has completed all 4 days or who has attended all 4 days, they get a $100 Walmart gift card at the end. But again, breakfast and lunch provided every day. They will see some science lessons or lessons that they can use in the science classroom, parts per million demonstration, some on water quality, some on plastics and recycling. But a lot of the time is spent doing industry tours. We'll take a tour of Eastman. We'll go through Flint Hills. That's another. They're out there on the Texas Eastman complex with the chemical and refining industry. We're going to go to Good Shepherd Medical Center in Longview. We'll also tour Analab facilities here in Kilgore, where they go through and do all kinds of analysis from DNA type stuff all the way up to soil samples to analyzing food samples, to get the nutrition information that goes on food labels. They do all of that in their facility. So that will be one of the tours. We'll also tour Kilgore College and look at the programs they have there, and also LeTourneau University. The last day, during lunch and right after, we'll have a panel discussion with representatives from some of the businesses that we've looked at during the week, and then also TSTC, Kilgore College, and some workforce development folks will be on that panel discussion just to talk about the future jobs and occupations that are seem to be or on the horizon and will be in demand over the next 5 to 10 years. And it's mainly focused on that part of it anyway, is focused kind of in the East Texas workforce development area, the Tyler Longview. That's kind of where that will that discussion usually ends up focusing, but still a lot of those as we talk about the programs that are available that feed from TSTC into some of the business and industry here. A lot of those occupations also feed into industries in other parts of the state. And we've had really good feedback about this program over the last several years. And so we are offering it once again, and this time, like I mentioned, it's going to be at LeTourneau University instead of being here at the Region 7 building. So we're looking forward to building another relationship with another partner on that side of it. So hopefully you've got some teachers. I know we've had some that have participated from down in the Lufkin area, and they made that drive every single day. And I know that's a long drive, and we start at 8 o'clock. That's when they start serving breakfast. At 8:30 is when we kick off with the presentations or board the buses. We use charter buses. Eastman rents those for the week, and the charter buses will take the participants around to the various locations for the field trips and tours. But it's a really great experience for those science teachers, introduces them to the CTE world, try to help them make connections between the careers and business and industry and what's going on in that core classroom. So seems to be just a really good workshop that has been in the past. So that's July 17th through the 20th. On August 2nd, we're going to have a career prep and practicum workshop for if you have teachers that are new to teaching career prep and or practicum courses, remember they do have to have that career prep and practicum training. They can do the training online. There's an online version of it at the Texas CTE Resource Center. They are more than welcome to do that. It doesn't cost anything there. Or they can, if they prefer face-to-face instruction, we'll have one on August 2nd. If they've already done it one time in the past, there is not a requirement for them to do it again. I have had some teachers come back after 3 or 4 years that just kind of want a refresher, make sure they're on top of everything, make sure they understand all the paperwork that they need to keep up with, and have all the timelines straight on those career prep and practicum courses. So we've got that August 2nd, September 6th. You see the Foundation High School Program and endorsements. We'll look at Chapter 75, some of those graduation requirements, some of those substitutions that can take place if you have new counselors, or even counselors just need a refresher. As we get into that, we will look at some of those requirements and how CTE courses can fit in there. Another career prep and practicum session on September 11th. We have that one because sometimes in our smaller schools, even in a larger school, you may have a change of personnel or change of assignment right at the last minute, right before school starts, maybe right after school starts. And so we try to offer one within the first couple of weeks of school, so that way your teacher can go ahead and get that training in the books. We have an SSA meeting on September 13th, where we will look at the projected budget and benefits for the SSA for the coming year. September 26th, our CTE 101. If you have a new CTE director or person or you yourself just kind of want to come in and get another round of where some of these CTE resources are, and network with other CTE folks in the region and see what other people are doing. That's kind of what this one is. We go a mile wide and an inch deep on that day. We'll cover everything from TEKS to instructional resources to funding, to some of those requirements on state and federal funding. We'll look at course sequences, we'll look at industry certifications, we'll talk some about teacher certification, just kind of a little bit of everything on that particular day. On October 2nd, we have a CTE roundtable, and it's being combined with a counselor networking meeting. It's going to be held at Trinity Valley Community College in Athens. We had one of these last winter in TSTC, and we got a lot of really positive feedback when we combined the CTE folks and the counselors together. Several districts, they brought 2 or 3 people came and visited, and the way we had it set up is we'll split them out into their respective groups, and while one group is having some networking time, the other group will be touring the college and getting to look at some of the programs that are offered at that college. And then after about an hour and a half or so, they'll come back and they'll swap places, and the other group will then get to network for a little bit. So each group gets about an hour and a half of networking time just to kind of see what other folks are doing. You also get an opportunity to see what the college programs look like on that campus. And then the college provides lunch for everybody. We've got a lot of positive feedback offering that networking meeting in that kind of environment, instead of just having a district host it on their campus. And so this coming year, we're going to try to do 4 CTE networking meetings on 4 college campuses. That one there on October 2nd at TVCC, and you'll see there at the bottom of the list, we're still trying to finalize a date on either November 1st or November 2nd with Angelina College, and the same type of setup. And then for the spring semester, we're looking again at going back to TSTC. They really want to host us back, and then we'll probably the 4th one will be at Kilgore College, and we're looking sometime in March, somewhere around there, that we'll do those. But hopefully you or several people from your district can attend those. And then on October 4th, the CTE and PEIMS coding session, just going back and reminding everybody it may not be quite as big a deal this year for 18-19 as it was for 17-18. Now that we've had a year with the new CTE course names and some of those PEMS numbers changed, we did want to make sure last year that we kind of got those. I'm still seeing a few of them as I visit with schools and look at master schedules. I'm still seeing some older names used on their master schedule, and so we have to always go back and double check and make sure we have the current PEMS number associated with those. But that's what we're going to be looking at there, as well as some of the other questions. We'll have that one kind of a Q&A session before we get to snapshot day and look at those zeros, ones, and twos, and maybe we'll have some guidance before then about how we're going to mark kids that are in that have completed a certification or are in some of those courses that lead up to that particular certification. I don't know if we'll have any information along those lines or not, but if we do, that will be a great opportunity for us to share it with each other. As we go down on the SMORE, you'll see right here there is the Padlet for suggestions. And just take a second for those of you that weren't with us right at the beginning, this SMORE, to get to it, it is smore.com/2kdfm. And this SMORE will be live as these other sessions as we get them online ready for registration. Not only will I be emailing you, but I'll also update the SMORE so they'll be hyperlinked right to the registration page for those sessions. But this SMORE is out there and will be available for you to come back and refer to. The Padlet for suggestions, if you have suggestions for training or anything like that, what you really the training side is what I'm looking for suggestions for over the next, looking ahead 12 to 18 months down the road. If you've never used Padlet, once you click on that link and get here, just double click on the slate area right here, and you can type something in. If you want to put your name on there, that's fine. If you want to remain anonymous, you can do that too. Anyway, that's all you do, and it's just like putting Post-it notes up on a wall. So if you have some suggestions, please share those with me. We get down to the next section on the SMORE, and we have these A through F accountability resources. Some of you, maybe all of you, have probably seen these as these have been released over the last couple of weeks, and they've been out there. I know Lisa Green and Henriette Lovely, they've been doing some webinars and training sessions on that A through F accountability system. So you may have seen the PowerPoint slides that they've put out, and they probably also had these out as attachments. Of course, the industry certification list, this is the one that usually gets a reaction of some sort from folks. Of course, we've been looking at this for 18 months now or something like that, and kind of scratching our heads or wondering, okay, how are we going to get our kids a certification that's on this list, or are we going to try even work towards one of these certifications? One thing that I do like to remind everyone is that this list is in my mind, it's not one of those that needs to drive your program. You need to look at what the goals are for your kids, what's valuable to them in your particular area. If one of these certifications will provide some sort of added value to them, then yeah, we can obviously put together a program that will hopefully teach the skill set that is required to pass these certifications. What I try to encourage districts to not do is just look at this list, and if you currently have a sequence of courses or a pathway or program of study in your high school, and there's not a certification on this list that matches up with that program of study, just don't just toss out that program of study just because there's not a certification on this list that matches up with it. It's quite possible that program of study is still very valuable for your students in your particular area, so don't let this list drive your CTE program by any means. Some of these on here are, to me, they are fairly easy to achieve. Some of them I don't know all that much about. I mean, the automotive ones, those are if you don't have the facilities to teach that or access to a junior college close by where kids can do a dual credit course and that has an automotive program, some of those may be kind of cost prohibitive just to get the equipment in. When we look at some of these other ones, I see a lot of districts that are doing some of these healthcare ones through their health science program, and some are, I know they're looking to add more. Of course, we see a lot of the pharmacy tech. I've had several districts that are looking at that patient care technician, and of course, I know Hudson, PT Walters down there with his group, they've got a great health science program. So the others that are listening in on this webinar, if you're wanting to kind of revamp or maybe take your health science program up to the next level, he's always the person that I recommend you call because he's got it going on down there for sure. And he can provide a lot of insight on into how they've got that health science program set up. And I know they do there's some dual credit type stuff with Angelina. I think they're tied in with their LVN program. So anyway, he's got a lot of great insight down there. So reach out to him and get some more information on that side. The Microsoft Office, we see a lot of that offered through our BIM courses. Just want to call your attention to, it's the Excel Expert and the Word Expert. Of course, that master certification, you've got to get, I believe, those 2 expert certifications plus 2 more Microsoft certifications or certifications in 2 more Microsoft areas in order to have that master certification. But those are expert level certifications that are on there for Excel and Word. The NCCER, you saw those instructor certification trainings on the list of upcoming sessions. The core curriculum, that's a certification that you could probably get in a class at the sophomore level, maybe not till junior level, but depending on how you have, and you can get it through the ag program. We have ag programs at most of our high schools in Region 7, and so that is one that if you have a teacher that has been teaching for at least 3 years, then they can be certified as an NCCER instructor and offer that core curriculum certification through the ag program. I also see some going into the level 1, and when you look at the skills that are required, and for each of these, when you go to you can go to nccer.org, and let me just pop out right quick and see if we can get you to where I'm talking about. If you have some interest in pursuing some of these, or maybe you want to share some information with your teacher, if you go to that nccer.org and we go down here to the crafts and titles, the construction essentials, that's where you'll find your core curriculum, but you can also go to construction and maintenance, and you'll see some of these different subject areas. The cabinet making, carpentry, some schools have interest in that. I'm actually trying to get to the welding part of it because that's right here. When you get to the page that deals strictly with this particular topic, you'll see over here on the right-hand side these course planning tools. So if you're having a conversation with your teacher, or your teacher wants to get more information about it, they can come over here to these course planning tools, and down here, of course, you can see the different competencies and the objective lists, but these performance profiles, these are basically the skills test that the students are going to have to pass. And you go down to the welding level 1, and so you can look at those and it will describe what they have to do. So your teacher can look at these, and before you dedicate a lot of time, energy, and money in this, they may be able to say, yeah, we can do this, or, I feel comfortable teaching these skills to the students, or, maybe not so much. So to me, that's a good resource and a good strategy. You look at what skills they're going to be tested on, And then down here you have an equipment and material list. And this is a suggested list. It is not mandatory. Against NCCER's approach, I know several years ago when some schools had their shop certified, it was a great big ordeal, and you had to have pieces of equipment in certain spots, and you had to have walkways that were that had to be a certain width, and you had to have the yellow paint on the floors and all kinds of stuff. NCCR is kind of backed off of a lot of that, and their approach has been, or is now, as long as you have the equipment to teach the skills and enough space in your shop where you can do so safely. That is their approach to this. So I think it's kind of changed a little bit over the last several years, but you can download that list of recommended equipment and materials, and you see some of it is pretty basic. As you scroll down, you can go through there and see if there's any kind of specialty equipment that's on there that you don't have in your shop right now, that you will need to teach the skills for that particular certification level. So that's how you would get in there and check that. Again, nccer.org. We went to program resources, the crafts titles, the construction and maintenance is where we went through those topics and got to welding level 1, the construction essentials. That will take you, that's where you should be able to find the core curriculum if you want to go that route. All those other levels, the welding level 1, the students do have to have that core curriculum certification before they can complete that welding level 1. And that's why I mentioned sometimes it works better where you can do that core certification as a sophomore and get that out of the way, and then that welding level 1. And there's not anything in there that says that level 1, that welding level 1 certification has to be completed in 1 year. It may be something that your students start off, maybe they start off in ag, mech, and metal as a junior, and they start working on some of those skills and those performance profiles that we saw, and then their senior year they take that 2-hour welding 1 course or an ag practicum or something like that, and then they complete the rest of those profiles there. And so that way by the end of their senior year they have completed all those skill tests and they can get that certification. So if you don't have just a dedicated welding program where you can get to those skills and get through all of those in a year, sit down and have a talk with your instructor about, hey, is that something that we could possibly do over 2 years with some of our students? Like I mentioned here on the essentials page, that core curriculum, same type of deal here. You have the course planning tools where you have the performance profiles and the equipment and material lists. Now in core curriculum, it does have a section in there on construction math. It also has one on rigging and how to secure things and make sure they're ready to be lifted and transported and so forth and so on. So it's not just a straight safety, although there is a lot of safety and how to use personal protective equipment, a lot of stuff that will probably overlap with what teachers are currently doing when they're teaching shop safety. And with this core curriculum, it's items that doesn't have to all be, they don't have to teach everything in this core curriculum before they take kids out into the shop. It could be that they teach the module on shop safety and get that checked off, and then look at some of those other performance profiles, those skills that need to be taught, and teach those throughout the rest of the school year. And then by the end of the school year, they have completed everything in that core curriculum guide, and so they're able to submit the student's name for certification. As far as cost goes, to me, that's one, the NCCER may be one of the most cost efficient ones. You pay $50 to have your school approved as a training and education facility, and then you do have to buy the curriculum. The books are about $50 a piece. You can have a classroom set. They are, depending on how often they bring out an edition, historically, those books are usually good for 8 to 10 years, so you won't have to purchase another one. And then after that, there is no cost. You don't if you use the paper exams and keep track of the paperwork, there you do have to, the teacher does have to keep the paperwork and the documentation for 3 years after the student qualifies for that. But when you submit the names to NCCER for the students to get that certification, there is no cost involved in that. So on that side, it seems to be one of the most cost effective ways to get to that certification level. But anyway, that's some of the ones we see. I heard 1 or 2 schools working towards this wastewater collections. Still trying to get some more information on that. If any of y'all have some information on that, please email it to me, or send me a link to some of the resources. Would like to see how we might be able to help some schools get some of those going. Anyway, that's that list of 73. The courses aligned as we look at the rest of these A through F accountability resources. And actually, before we get to that, let's look at the accountability framework here, because that's where that list of courses will come into play. We talk about not getting overly excited about that list of certifications, and this is one reason why. We want to make sure that, we understand we only get to earn that 1 point or check that box for college, career, military readiness one time. We don't get extra points for the more times a student checks that box or meets that requirement. So you have several different ways. You've got the TSI scores, and it may be a whole lot easier to get a greater percentage of your kids TSI ready than it is to try to get some with that industry certification. So that may be something you look at. You have the AP and IB exams that where you can earn that college, career, military readiness. The dual credit aspect of it is something else to look at. Even if you have kids that, okay, maybe they won't be able to get a certification that's on that list. It may be another type of certification, but they will end up with 9 or 12 hours of dual credit in a technical area before their high school career is over. So that may be something to look at. I know I was over at Cayuga a couple of weeks ago, and they had just gotten a letter from TVCC. Cayuga has a welding instructor that in the past has taught dual credit for TVCC, and he's now on staff full-time, paid by Cayuga ISD. And TVCC said, hey, if you want to teach 1 or 2 sections of our dual credit welding, the school district's paying you. We won't charge any tuition for your students. And so it's free dual credit. And they had 4 courses lined out there. Students would start their junior year, so they'd have 12 hours of dual credit welding by the time they graduated. So obviously, whether or not they got that certification wouldn't make any difference. They would meet that requirement for the dual credit. So that's one way to look at that. Of course, enlisting the armed forces. We talked about those certifications. The coherent sequences, and this, for this next year, we have that list of courses that if a student completes one of these, you get a half point. If they don't finish out and earn the certification, but they do get a half point for completing one of these courses. And some of these, we may have to kind of guess exactly which certification they line up with. Some of them are pretty straightforward, but you see a lot of the practicum courses on here, or that second level of a particular course. So you get a half point for the students that are completing those courses. And if they get that certification, I know when we get to somewhere in 2020 and 2021, they're talking about receiving credit for a pathway of courses. I don't have specific clarification on that, but what I suspect will happen is that TEA will define a pathway, probably at least 3, maybe 4 courses, and say, okay, if a student completes this pathway of courses, then they'll get a half point if they don't earn that industry certification. That's not to say that those are the only pathways that your school can offer. They're just saying if they do take this pathway, you get a half point. And they'll still be able to, you'll still be able to offer, students will still be able to take other pathways in there. But that's kind of the way I see that unfolding over the next few years. And of course, the graduation rates are going to be in there. And you can get into the rest of this document. I'm not going to get into it right now, but it shows some of all the calculation methods and what all is going into play. But you do have that document there on the SMORE, that list of advanced courses there that you can get a half point for your students that are enrolled in those. But again, I encourage you to go back and take a good strong look at your students. Maybe create a spreadsheet where you have the student names down one side, the ways that they can meet that CCMR indicator across the top, and go through there. And as the student meets one of those, whether it's from TSI or AP or IB or ACT, SAT or dual credit, whatever, and put a mark in that box so you know they have met that, and or you expect that they will meet it in that way. And then see how many students are we really looking at that will probably be pursuing that industry certification, where they will need that to meet that CCMR requirement. You may have a very different perspective on how many students you're looking at that where that industry certification will really help them earn that or meet that indicator for CCMR. All right, so we've gone through all those resources for the A through F accountability. Oh, the feedback here, this last one, again, this is one of those that you've probably already seen, but if not, just real quick, this is what the original TEA proposal was. The theme of a lot of the feedback from the stakeholders is listed in this column, and then the final outcome is over here. So if you wanted to kind of look at that last fall, I believe it was, is when TEA was asking for feedback. So you kind of get a summary of that. And if the stakeholder feedback had any influence on the TEA final decision, that's what that document shows there. So you may want to take a look at that, some pretty interesting information. As we go through the SMORE, the TEA CTE survey, there is a link to that right there, so you can go through and provide surveys, just CTE in general, also about work-based learning, your career prep and practicum courses and experiences, depending on how much detail you have here. I've talked to some CTE directors, and they said, they sat down and they just kind of poured all their thoughts out into this and probably spent 20 to 30 minutes on it and wrote very lengthy paragraphs wherever they had an opportunity to type in recommendations. And they weren't just explaining what their frustrations were or where they felt like improvements needed to be made. They were also providing suggestions about what they would like to see happen, or what some of those improvements could possibly look like in the future. I will say this, I had opportunity last week to go to Austin and meet with the CTE folks at TEA last week, and one of the things we talked about was having easier access to labor market data, specifically for our region. Sometimes the data is on the Texas Workforce Commission website, but it's not real easy to get to, and when you get it, it may be in a CSV file or a great big huge spreadsheet when you download it, and it just is pretty hard to muddle through. And sometimes when you do find something that is fairly easy to look at, it may not, I haven't found anywhere where they really have what the job outlook is for some of those high skill, high wage jobs that TEA always talks about. And so we visited about that. TEA said they were going to get with Workforce Commission and see what they could work out. And earlier this week, I did get a call from Mick Normington at the Texas Workforce Commission asking what type of information, what type of data would be helpful in how we would like to be able to use it, and what way it would benefit our school districts, and we want it broken down, by region, by county, and of course all those different things. So I was at least encouraged that it seems like TEA heard our request and then also took some action, and then that the Workforce Commission was reaching out to some of the stakeholders to try to get more information. So hopefully we'll see some changes in that, and where we can access labor market information, more usable labor market information, be a little bit easier. For those in the Longview, Kilgore area, this East Texas Advanced Manufacturing Academy, that's a joint project. The schools in, well, 4 schools in Gregg County, Longview, Spring Hill, Pine Tree, and Hallsville have joined together with some business and industry partners, and they are starting a manufacturing academy. It will be in Longview, but it is open to students from schools throughout the region. The courses right now will be in precision machining and electronics and instrumentation, or instrumentation and electronics, and they are opening up this fall. The courses will be, they understand this first year they may have juniors and seniors, but as it gets going, they want to bring students in at the junior level, and so that way they have 2 years that they'll get to spend at the manufacturing academy. But this is to kind of meet some of the job demand of the job market in the Longview, Kilgore area. And I know Komatsu is one of the big industry partners behind this. The Economic Development Corporation in Longview, they've also gotten some grants and have some donations that are going towards this. But there's their website. You can get more information about that. It will be dual credit between or with TSTC and Kilgore College. I think TSTC has the precision machining program. Kilgore College is doing the instrumentation and electronics, and they will have, again, eventually working their way into junior and senior level courses, so a possibility of getting 12 dual credit hours for kiddos in the future, but they're kicking that off this fall. The CTE Resource Center, just want to remind you that this is out there. Remind your teachers also. When you go to the teacher spot, they are adding more and more information on this. So they're adding lesson plans as they vet them with the new TEKS, make sure that everything is lining up. When you get to these pages, the search option does a pretty good job. Of course, you have these career cluster pages. You can go straight to them. And you see over here some of the teacher resources. You can go down and go to individual course pages. You pull up some lesson plans. I was helping a teacher just a couple of days ago. They were looking for some resources or some information for the math applications in Ag, Food, and Natural Resource. And so we were doing some searching here on this page. So remind your teachers that this is out there if you have a new teacher in a CTE area and need some resources, scope and sequence, lesson plans, so forth and so on. Send them here and have them check that out. Also remember, on some of your CTE courses that count for core credit, forensic science, of course the math ag, the financial math, some of those other ones that you're seeing where the teachers had to go on and do those online modules. Those modules have been taken down because they were aligned with the old TEKS. They are being revamped. If you look at the teacher certification requirements in Chapter 231, in those courses, it's got that little note down at the bottom. It now says that the teacher must complete that TEA approved training by the year 2020. So they have a couple of years. And they can still go ahead, even if they haven't had that training, they can be assigned to teach that course this fall. So if you have a math teacher that's going to be teaching financial mathematics and they need that CTE 101 and that financial mathematics module, they can still go ahead and start teaching it this fall, and then pick and go through those online modules when they are loaded back up again, probably in another year or so. Been told, I know those old modules were about 90 hours. I've been told that they will be shortened considerably, and so we'll see we'll just have to wait and see on those. But they are not out there right now, and will be up, so that way they'll be up sometime before the 2020 school year. But don't be afraid to get your teachers, to have teachers assigned to teach those CTE courses that count for core credit, even if they haven't completed those modules. We'll just keep you updated when they do become available. Region 7 CTE webpage, if you need to contact us, that's where all our contact information is. And then again, down there at the bottom is that flyer for the STI. All right. I don't know if you have any questions. Of course, as always, you can give me a call, 903-988-6810. Email me at aknight@esc7.net. This will be recorded. I will send out the link this afternoon or tomorrow. I've got to go make some deliveries to a district here in a little bit, so I'm not sure exactly how the rest of my day is going to play out. But I will get that link out to everybody, and you'll have access. Again, the SMORE will stay up and stay available. So smore.com/2kdfm, and you can have access to that. Right now, I'm kind of looking over at the chat box. Does anybody have a question, or if you want to come in over the microphone, you can certainly do that. If you have a question that you want to address right now, let me know, and we'll see what we can do. Otherwise, we will go ahead and finish up the meeting, and I'll look forward to visiting with y'all as we go along. Do want to remind you, I know that some of the larger schools, you've already got master schedule in place for next year. It's not that you're rocking and rolling and ready to go. Smaller schools, it may be down into May, maybe even into the summer. If you want a set of eyes, an extra set of eyes to look over that master schedule, or maybe you want to tweak your pathways or your sequences of courses, and you'd like to do some brainstorming and want to bounce some ideas around together, I'm more than happy to come out to your district, and we can sit down and look at teacher certifications that you have access to on your campus, and what some of the courses are and how they fit in with some of the certification programs, or just how they fit in with maybe some dual credit options at your local college. I'll be more than happy to come out and visit with you, and we can bounce around some ideas. If not, we are about to wrap this thing up. So just give me a call, shoot me an email if there's anything at all that I can do for you. Otherwise, y'all take care and have a great rest of the day. We'll talk to you soon.